There it is.
There it is.
I knew this was going somewhere.
Too soon.
Iliad. Kansas City
Bobby
Chiefs.
Boucher.
Bobby Boucher.
And Travis Kelce.
All right. We're in the home
6
stretch.
degrees of Taylor Swift.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down to Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental, Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside are my co-hosts, Ash, Fair is Fair Davey,
Ayo.
and Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
Each week, we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit chatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And for anybody keeping score, I called it. True Detective was crap, and I'm so glad we didn't cover it.
So bad.
So disappointing. Yes.
Finally, to hang out, you just wanted it to be gases. I know.
No, it was disappointing on all fronts. Forget about the gases.
And that's our coverage of True Detective for the season. Finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, there's a trend in Hollywood usually where a movie becomes a hit, and then all of a sudden there are copycats of that. You had volcano movies. We're going to have Dante's Peak. We're going to have Volcano, or it's Westerns, or it's asteroid films. That happens also with this podcast. These commissions come in usually a year in advance. And when I find we run into common themes in strings of movies, whether it's actors or themes. So tonight's theme is something that surprisingly we have just done with the same actor. It's another story of underdogs who are out for justice against the oppressive adults. It's an empowering storyline where a few weeks ago we learned to talk hard. Tonight we're going to learn that fair is fair. We've got our rock anthem, and we're going to ask the age-old teen question. What are we waiting for? Why won't anybody help us? And that's because BreAnn wrote in and she said, please review the 1985 story of teenage rebellion, The Legend of Billie Jean. And she was kind enough to call in and leave a wonderful voicemail telling us exactly why this underrated gem is so important to her.
Hey, everybody. This is BreAnn. I'm a longtime listener, probably been around since about episode 3, but it's my first commission. Sorry about that. I guess I kind of owe you. Lots of laughs over the years. I even listen to you guys review dumb movies that I would never watch and never plan on watching, but you make me laugh every week. So I'm writing in about my movie, Legend of Billie Jean, which unfortunately is not about Billie Jean King, to Jean's dismay. But this movie honestly just checked every box for my little 6 and 7-year-old heart, who had HBO in her bedroom and watched all the things that I shouldn't have watched. But this one in particular was one of my favorites, and I can quote every word of it to this day. You know, from the music, which was pretty kick-ass with Billy Idol and Pat Benatar, we had baby Christian Slater, which I'm happy to add to your streak of young Christian Slater. This might have been his first movie. I'm not sure about that. But and then we also had Yeardley Smith, so we got to hear Lisa Simpson call somebody a fucker. I feel like that in itself should take off at least about a half a wipe. But it really honestly showed me as a child exactly kind of who I wanted to be. And it really helped my little burgeoning feminist heart in a way that I don't even really think I recognize. So, also, I know it for sure. I'm watching this and thinking about it through my nostalgia glasses, but I feel like it's almost even more plausible today. I mean, with the way that people end up going viral and the way that she was turned into a folk hero. I don't know. I'm just very interested to hear all of your thoughts on it. And I'm kind of scared too. And I also restarted this like 5 times, maybe 6 times, because I hate the sound of my own voice. So can't wait. I've been looking forward to this for like a year and a half. So can't wait to hear your thoughts. Bye.
So to start with, I think you have a lovely voice, and you're
Yes.
also really, really fantastic on Instagram. I've been following you for a couple of years, and just absolutely love following your life and knowing that you are a listener. As far as the feminist angle on this, I took a lot of flack this week and in past weeks, speaking of True Detective, for just kind of pointing out how like obscenely girl boss focused that series was for season 4. So much like the disclaimer that Ash and I gave when we were covering Lovecraft Country, I am going to say that I watched this as a dude, and I might not have picked up on everything. So I'm glad that we do have Ash. I hate when we refer to her as like the female expert, but this is one of those times where it's really helpful to not just have 2 dudes talking about a film that is very much about a woman. So watching it with like a degree of sensitivity to what BreAnn was just talking about with the feminist angle on it, I hadn't really thought of that prior to this recording. So now I'm kind of like, fuck, got to really watch myself. The Legend of Billie Jean is a 1985 coming-of-age film starring Helen Slater, Christian Slater, no relation, Keith Gordon, Dean Stockwell, and Peter Coyote. Janet Maslin of the New York Times said The Legend of Billie Jean was, quote, competently made, sometimes attractively acted, and bankrupt beyond belief. It's hard to imagine that even the filmmakers, let alone audiences, can believe in a sweet, selfless heroine who just can't help becoming a superstar. The Legend of Billie Jean was filmed in Corpus Christi, Texas, and holds a 39% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So much like BreAnn alluded to, I told her, and I should tell you all, I thought this movie was a sports biopic about tennis star Billie Jean King. And I refused to watch any sports biopic made in 1985. So I had never seen it. Have you guys?
Yeah, definitely I'd seen it. Yeah. I remember the bare bone structure of the film. It's the kids were going to be wronged by an adult. I didn't remember the moped part. I thought it was strictly
It's a scooter.
the scooter. I didn't remember that. I remembered that it was just like I thought it was going to be a sexual assault, and the police won't help, and the kids are forced to band together and learn the lesson that the true power that they have when they come together against the grown-ups, they can win, and they're going to finally get justice. But what was burned into the back of my memory were 2 things. Was the badass Pat Benatar anthem that you hear it, and they even did it in the ads. I think it's in the trailer, like including the hit by Pat Benatar, Invincible, but also Helen Slater, Supergirl later on. Very, very beautiful. Short hair that looks like some kind of a vest, some kind of sporty water sport vest. She was something that the boys were quite attracted to back in the day.
I have a very different definition of what a water sports vest looks like, but,
Oh, no,
but you're not wrong. Yeah,
It looks like a life jacket. It's got the zipper.
thing
White.
going.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of water sport do you do with that kind of a vest?
Hey, you don't want to ruin your clothes. You know, you can just hose it off in the yard.
It's not even made of like latex or whatever.
Might be neoprene.
Well, this has Christian Slater, so like, of course, I've seen it. It's a lesser Slater, like for sure. It's a lesser Slater film. It's not like one I've seen hundreds of times. It's got horrible bleach blonde hair in it, but I also love the song. Like that's what I remember from this. I remember the song. I remember it like being kind of badass, but I remembered like nothing else at all. But of course, I did watch it as a woman.
Yeah.
So I can bring the woman experience. So you're welcome.
I really appreciate that. And for people who didn't listen to the last episode when we talked about this, Ash and I basically died laughing trying to explain this movie. Because Big D, you're absolutely right. We've got like sexual assault and a scooter, $608 for the scooter. It is definitely a unique movie. Let's get to the trailer.
I'm Billie Jean Davy, and I want to set the record straight. It began on a quiet summer afternoon when a teenage prank got out of hand.
Hey, come on, Hubie, that's not a toy!
Mr. Pod, I'm here to collect $608. Your son Hubie trashed my brother's scooter.
The layaway plan.
No.
Hey, here you go.
No! No!
Let go of my sister.
It's not even loaded.
I'm Billie Jean Davy.
I said it wasn't loaded.
And I want to set the record straight.
Are you out of your mind? Keep going!
I'm not a thief, and neither is my brother.
Now subject of a statewide manhunt.
The gang headed north from here.
Are you Billie Jean?
You're Billie Jean.
Are you Billie Jean?
I keep my word. Maybe that doesn't mean much to some people, but it does to me.
We didn't start this, we didn't mean it to happen, but we're not giving up till you pay. Yeah!
She became a symbol of courage to young people everywhere to fight for what's right.
Where's she? Everywhere.
You're getting too famous.
Very fair.
The Legend of Billie Jean.
When Billie Jean Davy, a teenager from Corpus Christi, Texas, stops for a milkshake with her younger brother Binks, they're bullied by Hubie Pyatt and his friends. Hubie sexually harasses Billie Jean, so Binks throws a milkshake in his face. Billie Jean and Binks flee and go swimming at a local lake, where Billie Jean tells Binks about the weather in Vermont. Humiliated by the milkshake incident, Hubie arrives and steals Binks' scooter. Ash, you're supposed to be the serious one on this podcast. You're the woman.
There's sexual assault.
Jesus.
I can't take it. It's just so stupid.
It's a story
So
of female
dumb.
empowerment, Ash. They're coming here to listen to you stand up for her. She's an icon.
Stops for a milkshake.
Yeah.
Would you laugh at Joan of Arc?
Yes, if it were described like this.
You know, you got to fight the battle that's in front of you, Ash.
Not only did she see angels, she also needed $680 for her scooter.
And some kind of frozen treat. You never know. It could be. And listen, I can't believe that we didn't remember more of this because there's not much to the movie. It's only 96 minutes long, but this movie, mercifully, it doesn't waste much time setting up the plot. We get it. Billie Jean and Binks, they live in a trailer park. Oh, so they must be poor. Their dad's dead. The mother's not supportive. She's kind of an asshole. She's a bit trash. Oh, I'm glad the bike's gone. You know, you spent all of his insurance money. So we know dad's dead. Binks is dumb as hell. Yes, he's 15, but he's stupid on top of that. He thinks that Vermont is this mystical place that he's never heard of. And oh my God, there's snow? You mean frozen water? Then we meet the Pyatt family. They're considered what's Texas Riviera rich. Normally, you have like the wealthy family where they're powerful. These guys don't seem so powerful. The Hubie, he's got a car. It looks like it was a Challenger, but it's half of its primer. So I don't know how rich he is. The dad owns like what's the equivalent of like a rundown roadside souvenir stand. It is short, mercifully. It is sweet. We get to the point. Other movies would have had multiple instances where Hubie is bullying them, where maybe guys are sexually harassing Billy. This movie gets to it, and I'm all for that.
You're absolutely right, Big D. And we don't need to know how dad died or what family life was like. This movie just moves forward without really looking back. It's got a lot of velocity to it, but there's a certain trade-off to that formula. I don't want us to sound like a broken record on this podcast. We're always saying, just get to the point, just get to the point, just skip the setup, right? A movie that gets moving fast carries the burden of fleshing out the characters later. If you never achieve that at any point in the film, then it feels a little bit shallow. And I don't think we really come to understand a single character in this movie, but I also don't know if it would help much. Like, even if I knew everything about them, I don't know if it makes it a better movie.
It wouldn't, because this is like a weird buffet of 80s cliches. Like, you don't need the exposition because we already know it all before. You got the bully, check. Like, you don't even need to know his name. He's got spiky hair. That's how we know he's the bad guy. You've got the busty blonde girl. You've got a sibling relationship of some kind, and you've got a classic song that's playing over the credits. Like, immediately this feels like 100 other films and like no film at the same time. It's actually kind of like miraculous.
And like all great 80s movies, it also has the iconic vehicle in it, right? It's not the A-Team van. It's not Marty McFly's DeLorean, right? It's the Honda Elite, one of the greatest scooters of all time. And This gives me a moment to talk about myself, so I'm going to take it. I have some sad news to share with everybody. During our Rambo First Blood episode, I mentioned that I had purchased a Yamaha XT250 because Rambo had one, and they're fucking badass. But I'm a motorcycle rider. I'm not a motorcycle collector. So I recently let that bike go, and I now have my sights set on a Honda Helix, which is the 250cc big brother to the Honda Elite scooter. So I was delighted when the Legend of Billie Jean decided to make the Elite a major part of this film. And for those who don't know, like, look at this scooter. I mean, really look at it.
Yeah.
Honda was visionary in the design of these gorgeous little bikes. It hurt a little bit to see it get trashed the way it did because I was smiling just looking at it. You cannot look at the Honda Elite and not be happy.
I mean, if you look at it, it's futuristic.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the Wraith, another, revenge film, but the front, it's got the vents, Gene. I'm looking at it, and it's got a pop-up light. What do you call that? Where the handlebars are? It's got like some kind of like fairing on it, some kind of like, it's got a little windshield. It looks good. It's not bad. And I would not have been embarrassed to have been caught on this thing in 1985. I would have thought I was the coolest kid in school. Today, if I was riding this thing, no one's going to look at me and laugh. They're going to say, holy shit, that thing's pretty cool. I think that was in fucking Legend of Billie Jean.
I'm making it a goal to get my hands on a Honda Helix so that the next time you're in town, I just want you on a Helix cruising around and my life will be complete.
I love it. It's
I
a
don't think
beautiful
Elite
design.
would move with you on it, but yeah.
It's a fucking beautiful design.
I just want to point out that, we were going to take a feminist approach to this, and somehow within the first 5 minutes, all that we've talked about is a braless girl and the car. So good job, guys. You're doing great.
Hey, you're the one laughing at this movie.
You
set the tone. We're just following. You're the band leader. I'm just the trombone.
There's
I'm
plenty
not the
more
heart of the
discussion
podcast.
about
That's not me.
The braless nature of Billie Jean.
Not the heart of the podcast. As Binks goes to retrieve his scooter, Billie Jean goes to the authorities with her friends Putter and Ophelia. They report the theft to Detective Ringwald, who urges them to wait and see if matters resolve. When Billie Jean returns home, she finds Binks beaten and his scooter severely damaged. The next day, Billie Jean, Binks, and Ophelia go to Mr. Pyatt's shop and demand $608 for repairs. When Pyatt isolates Billie Jean and tries to rape her, Binks accidentally shoots him with a gun from the shop's cash register.
Oh my God.
The siblings race away from the shop and become fugitives.
Okay, so as ridiculous as some of this premise is, I will say one thing that's very real here is their portrayal of Corpus Christi and like a lot of what Texas is actually like. The opening credits are like riding past refineries, uncut yard lawns, everybody's sweating. Somebody's already complained about the heat like 2 minutes in, and there's some weird, gross, muddied body of water that looks both stagnant but yet inviting because of how hot it is. And I went like, oh, yeah, like this is Texas. And don't get me wrong, there's some really beautiful parts of Texas. I will retire in Hill Country one day. In fact, we're actually in talks right now to buy a vacation home there next year because we love it so much. I mean, we absolutely think it's beautiful. But between the cities, Big Bend and Hill Country, all of Texas looks like this. This could have been Baytown or Beaumont or Kemah, Corpus Christi. It could be any of them. Like, they are depressing. And this movie captures that really, really nicely. And we made the mistake of getting an Airbnb a couple of months ago. And I was like, oh, well, let's go up to, the Trinity River. Like, that'll be nice. And when we got there, like, the whole place looked like this. And like the place where they jump in, he's like, watch for the gators. Like, there is actually a sign where we were that says don't swim because of alligators. Like, Texas is kind of gross.
See, but listen, all these places you listed, are they all right on the water?
Most of them, yeah.
Okay, because I think the more movies that we do, I'm starting to realize, and we've had this discussion before, that every single Gulf Coast state in the U.S., and for our international listeners, like, Florida on the left-hand side, it curves up, and there's a series of states. You got Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and then Texas. They could all be combined into like one big mega state. This movie could take place in any of those states and you would not know the difference. The fashion is the same. Maybe Texas, they have the cowboy hat, whereas the other ones could have a trucker hat. The weather's identical. I think the way they talk, like you said, the complaining about the weather, it is sweaty bayou, marshland, truck loving. And there's a scene in this that highlights this point. This might be the most ludicrous vigilante chase we have ever had. And it could only take place in one of these states. In our, what do they call it? The Great Bend. There's a dude in a lifted truck. He's trying to collect a $10,000 bounty. He pulls out his rifle, which is conveniently located on his back window. He pulls it out while his wife reluctantly drives with one hand. He starts shooting indiscriminately at a car full of teenagers while they're driving down a street with other teenagers wearing a giant 12-gallon hat. This might be the most American scene we've ever covered.
Okay. You brought this up during Great Expectations. You were wrong then. You're wrong now. Louisiana and Texas are incredibly different. I can't speak for Florida because I've never been Big D. Someday you're going to have to educate me on Florida. Doesn't sound great based on what you're saying, but I have driven. I mean, I drove from Ohio back to Arizona and hit all the states where my friends lived in between, which included Louisiana. It included Texas. I did not care for Alabama much driving through there. It wasn't really my scene. But let's say, for instance, coastal towns in Louisiana versus Texas, right? Let's say a New Orleans and a Corpus Christi. Okay. They can't be more different. New Orleans, mostly black. It's like 60% black. Corpus Christi has like no black people. It's basically mostly Hispanic and some white people. New Orleans, national treasure, protected at all costs. Corpus Christi, from what I've seen, it's like they take all the worst aspects of Texas and then just pack it onto a beach.
Like a really overpriced beach, right? With like shitty water. Like it's not even nice water. And refineries.
Yeah.
I completely agree with Eugene. He's wrong. You're wrong. All these areas are very, very different. And I think it's not just like geographically. I think it's also the politics. Like Texas is this really weird place that's like very proud to be its own state. Like there's this nationalism that exists that's like statism here. Like you should have seen on President's Day weekend this weekend, like all the Texas independence flags that were just like randomly flying outside of people's houses. That's a big thing. And they're all like the guns that like, come and take it. You know, that's the big thing on the sign. And the accents are also really different. And we haven't talked about this yet, but I think that's one of the worst parts of this whole thing are their accents. No one sounds like this in Texas, especially in Corpus. Like, what is that Southern drawl that they're doing? Like, I mean, they had no dialect coach at all, but that's the other piece that I think is very different is like, they're going to sound like, you know, New Orleans doesn't have a Southern accent. It's got very much like a weird mix of like Cajun and New York and New Orleans. And then you get out here and there's a little bit of a drawl, but it's not heavy like this unless you're in West Texas where like the Bushes are from.
See, but you guys bring up New Orleans. Gotta have small city. Bobby Boucher, he could be from Louisiana. He could be from Texas. He could be from Florida.
He couldn't. Bobby Boucher is only from Cajun country. He's only from Acadiana.
Yeah. Also, like you could throw New Orleans out and get Houma. Still
Baton Rouge.
Same applies. Baton Rouge still applies.
Lafayette.
Yeah, if you want to get real coastal, fucking Lafayette still applies.
Which is on the water. That looks nothing like here.
Fine.
Yay! Now we're getting all the hate mail. Stop picking on Big D.
Why are you being such a bully? He's the heart. You guys are like the assholes.
We want a mega state.
Come and take it.
I'm gonna make some Shat swag with the
come
mega
and take
Southeast.
it, Ash.
One stick. Come take my guns. With your soft liberal hands, put them on me. Put them lips on me and take my gun. You haven't seen that guy?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy's funny.
Feels like the wrong place to say that as I'm about to go into the scary man trope here. Put your lips on me and come and take it. Let's talk about mans.
Yeah, tell me.
Please do.
Well, look, here's the deal. I will be the last person to defend men, especially in movies where, like, in the opening scene, the woman is harassed. Like I'm not that person. But God, this movie makes it difficult to not be that person because this movie so leans into, like, the all men are dicks trope, right? That like they're all evil. And a lot of them are, objectively. And most women have been sexually harassed over and over and over and over again. Like, all women have. And a lot of dudes are dicks. But come on, it's so heavy-handed here. You got the son that's like licking her straw in the opening. And then the father like is like trying to rape her like the second she's alone. It's like an after-school special, like a cautionary tale of like, if you're alone and you're dressed slightly revealing, you will get raped.
Stranger
like I feel
danger.
like that was like, you know, the fortune cookie of the 80s. And I think it is a lot, and it feels like really kind of forced in a way. And, you know, I keep laughing at the buckets, like with you reading the descriptions. Obviously, I was completely unprofessional last time and I couldn't even breathe. I was laughing so hard at the description of this movie, but I think it's because, like, as ridiculous as it sounds, it's that forced and ridiculous when you see it on screen.
Ash, I don't disagree, but I'm sure this is going to sound very hypocritical coming from the guy that dismissed True Detective Night Country as a bunch of confused woke girl boss shit, but I could absolutely see this being Billie Jean's life, like fucking day to day. Like, from what I've seen, she's the attractive one, the only attractive one for miles. And what a lot of the she was asking for it crowd doesn't understand when it comes to women dressing provocatively like she does is that women are dressing for themselves, not you. And I think Billie Jean is such a perfect example of that. Like, she isn't wearing a bra because she's just kind of like very comfortable, kind of an earthy kind of gal. She's lounging on a deck in her bikini bottoms because she's just hanging out with her brother. It's a very fucking hot day and she wants to go for a swim. Like, she's showing some tummy when she goes around, but she's kind of like a beach bum, you know? That isn't for the guys. It's for her to be comfortable and dress the way she wants. But I also believe that this is guys in a small Texas town in the 80s. They're going to react. And how many times do we hear in the movie where like, you're a real pretty girl, you're a really attractive girl. Everybody's saying it. I think that's to reflect the fact that it's like, Billie Jean, you should be aware of how attractive you are. And that's why people act the way they do around you.
BreAnn, I bet you never could have imagined this when you submitted this commission, that you would depend on Jean and myself to come to the defense of this feminist icon against that mean Ash. Because I got to agree. Not that I've been sexually harassed in the upper office of like a souvenir stand, but I cannot believe that this is the first time this has happened to Billie Jean. I would bet you this is a daily occurrence for her. This felt like what I imagine it would be like. He's matter of fact. He's not even trying to dance around it. And Billie Jean, to her credit, she seems well equipped to handle Mr. Pryor. Billie Jean seems like she's got her shit together. She's smart. Her mother, on the other hand, she's a fucking train wreck. She would have been up there in a second, willing and agreeing to pay as you go, earn as you learn. I seem to think that's the life she has had. But this was kind of a scary situation to me.
Okay, let's unpack some things here. One, the reason she's not wearing a bra is because her boobs aren't big. And the greatest gift before you have children is your choice to not wear a bra. And I respect her for that. And I am jealous. And I think it's wonderful. I think the other piece here about like, well, you're such a pretty girl, like that's a thing that just happens in like southern towns. Like they tell them that you're pretty all the time. Like that just happens constantly. And I think the problem here, it's like they act like these men like can't control themselves. And if that's happening, like, is she a feminist icon for that? No. Like, I think she's just like what every other girl like goes through in their lives. But like, there's a difference between sexual harassment and like immediately like trying to be raped. And like, that's what I'm saying here. Like, this feels so predatory. Like, it's like every interaction she has with any man until she's with the DA's son feels like, you know, they're like snakes. Like, it feels like that movie Teeth, where she has like teeth in her vagina. And she like bites the guy's dick off because like every single person that she encounters like wants to hurt her. But at least that is making a really interesting like satirical point. Like here again, it just, yes, women are put upon. Yes, men are dicks. Yes, like we're constantly bombarded with this like all around us. But to make a whole film about it, it doesn't feel like she's strong. It just feels like, you know, she doesn't go on the run because of that. She goes on the run because of the fucking $680 for the dumb scooter.
No, I think she's smart. I think she knows what's going on. And they go on the run because you got to be honest. In this situation, the Billie Jean gang, they look guilty as fuck. There is no way they are getting out of this situation. Even though she went to the police first, yes, she should have gone back with Binks's face like just beaten to a pulp. But if you look at this from an outside objective perspective, they're in a no-win situation. They go upstairs to talk whatever goes on. Let's take the sexual harassment and assault out or whatever it's going to be. Binks goes into the cash register, pulls out a gun, then shoots Pruitt. These are all proven facts. They're fucked, all of them. It's a stolen gun. There's no other option, but you got to run. This isn't like Footloose where they're like, hey, we want to dance. These kids are screwed unless they go on the lam.
No, Binks is screwed. He's the one who's screwed.
They're accessories,
that's the
all
problem.
of them.
No, they're not accessories. He's an idiot kid. Like, he's the one that's screwed. They choose to like throw their hats in with him because, they become all, camaraderie, which I think is like typical of teenagers, but like they're not screwed. He's screwed.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna shoot everybody and kill him. That was
It
the
would have
interesting
been a
part to
better
me
movie.
is that he didn't die. That would have been a better
That
movie,
was, that was not an arm shot. If you
Yeah.
look at that wound, that's upper chest.
Yeah, but he's probably got like so much cholesterol in there. It's just like armor.
It just filled in the hole. It just did like some T-1000 shit.
Yeah.
Like it just plugged the hole.
Refusing to steal, Billie Jean's gang issues IOUs for borrowed supplies and attempts to settle the conflict by negotiating a $608 handoff from Mr. Pyatt. The deal goes south when Pyatt springs an ambush and Billie Jean barely escapes. With help from Lloyd, the teenage son of a district attorney, Billie Jean makes a video of her demands. She chops her long blonde hair into a Joan of Arc crew cut and dons a revolutionary-style wardrobe.
Yeah.
As media coverage increases, Billie Jean becomes a teen icon.
You heard that, Ash. Revolutionary style wardrobe.
Yeah.
Joan
I'm
of
sorry,
Arc.
Water
wetsuit.
sports. Yeah.
Water sport vest.
And listen, that is, I'm looking at it right now. That is some kind of like a wetsuit. It is a wetsuit. The zipper goes high. Sleeves are cut off. It's looking quite sexy. It is revolutionary style.
SeaWorld chic.
But we have to talk about the hair. We have to talk about this crew cut because it is one of the most memorable moments. I think it's up there with Demi Moore was shaving her head in G.I. Jane as far as haircuts impacting.
Did you find
character.
that sexy?
I actually did. Did. Much like here, I think Helen Slater, when she cuts her hair, as a kid, I was like, wow, I feel something kind of funny here. Yes, and as an adult, it's a transformation. She seems more mature. She knows that the media is going to grab onto this. They're going to eat that shit up with a spoon. And I recently saw a video, Gene, and I know you hate this stuff because people aren't going to be able to see it, but it was talking about something called hair theory. And they're saying that with women particularly, for guys, it doesn't. I almost wanted to switch your hairdo to see what would happen to you if you had maybe a short, spiky look, or if you had maybe it swooped over a little and short, or maybe if you had an Edgar to see what you would look like. But they've taken celebrities of a same age, like J-Lo and Rue McClanahan from the Golden Girls.
They're not
Both
the
at
same
52.
age.
No,
One's dead.
Shut up. They took pictures of them both at 52. And then they also took Jennifer Aniston. What they did was they put the same hair.
J-Lo's career's dead after the movie she just released.
Wow. But Ash is taking this deep, dark, like storyline here. She's got a lot of laughs,
women.
folks. She does.
I
She
don't
hates
hate
women.
I just haven't slept in like 4 or 5
She hates women. But they take hairstyles and they swap them. So they put like Rue McClanahan's hair on J-Lo, and the age difference, it is dramatic. It makes a huge difference. And when she cuts her hair, I think she looks like more of an older woman. I think
You were
it
trying to
does.
just say woman.
Oh, I said older woman because I think at 18 she was a woman. I'm saying an older. She looks more mature. She looks like she's empowered. She looks like the beacon of hope for kids in Corpus Christi.
Well, the best thing about being a woman is the prerogative to have a little fun.
Thanks, Shania.
Big D, I'm gonna ignore the fact that you quote unquote saw the video on fucking TikTok.
No,
and I'm not gonna ask.
That's only the screenshots. I do not have a TikTok account. I do not. But I searched hair theory.
So you use your daughter's TikTok account?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't have social media. What do you think? What kind of monster am I? I'm not going to expose her that yet. It was an Instagram video, but when I searched for hair theory, the only one I could find was the TikTok version.
Okay, because for a while there, I thought you had some sort of nightmare TikTok algorithm that's serving up hair theory. but Billie Jean's crew cut, I agree. It might be the best 80s glow up we've seen on Shat The Movies because 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, we have that moment where they do like the makeover, the glow up, and then they're like, oh, here she comes down the stairs. You're like, oh God, what the fuck? Like Molly Ringwald, what the fuck they do to you? The before is always better than the after, but in this case, the after was spectacular. She looks dynamite.
Yeah, she does look great. I agree. She looks fantastic, but it's not just the hair though, because like before she's very plain Jane, she looks like girl next door, and she gets the haircut and she gets the makeup done and she gets the outfit and she's got that one earring. Hair is just kind of like the start because she completely goes from like trailer park chic to like this very modern person. And I think that, it's fantastic. And to your point, yeah, she is from looking like 17 to looking 35. Like she looks like you command an audience, which I think it does work in that way.
And the movie's doing a real head fake here, though, because we get this moment where she meets Lloyd. We're going to have this big turn in the story. She chops off all her hair. And I think, fuck, she saw that Joan of Arc movie and it fucking got to her. She wised up. She's got a plan here. No more fucking around. No more demanding $608 at the mall and showing up in a weird outfit. She's going to sit down. She's going to make this video. They're going to send it to the TV media, and this is going to change everything, right? She's going to tell her side of the story. People are going to be shocked. The police are going to look into it and everything's going to be resolved. But that is not what Billie Jean does. She does not at any point in this video explain the main fact. Mr. Pyatt tried to rape me.
No.
She doesn't explain that his goons fucking ambushed a meeting with the police, which, by the way, can't believe they didn't get arrested for that. Instead, she's making these like vague proclamations about kid power and how fair is fair. This is not a smart girl.
Exactly. Right. Like, I think this is my biggest issue with the entire thing is that she is not as dynamic as I need her to be, right? This is very much, and I know that this movie came out like a whole decade or two, 2 full decades after this, but you got like a Katniss Everdeen thing going on here where it's supposed to be this girl that like rallies up the masses, and you get that in Jennifer Lawrence. You get that, I would argue, in Happy Harry Hard-On more than I get it from her, because I just don't feel that she is that clever. I mean, this is her big moment. And what does she say? You're so sleazy, right? Like, I'm like, really? Like, that's what you're going to say about him? Because she could have come up with something better. Like, they could have written her a script. They could have done something because she looks the part. They could have given her the words to match it. And this is where I call bullshit on the plot, too, is that if this guy was actually smart as well, he's going to give her the $600 to shut her up. Like, why aren't you just going to like cave at this point?
Yeah. So listen, I have no problem with the kids. The adults act in questionable ways that no adult would. The way this whole like ambush goes down is comical. There's people getting kicked in the nuts. There's Billie Jean all of a sudden turning into Usain Bolt and running through the mall like the T-800 in California. It gets ridiculous. But the kids, I said at the open, this is meant for kids. This is to empower kids to think together they can band against the adults and they'll have some power. And the grown-ups are evil and they're the villains. I can accept that in small doses. You get Elliot and his friends. Yeah, okay, they steal a van. They stick E.T. in the cooler into it and they get to the forest. That's good. The Goonies, yes, they can outsmart the Fratellis. They can save the Boondocks. I'm good with this. But these Texas kids, they go too far in their abilities. They get a random 5-year-old to carry in a bag into the police station. They infiltrate the police. He finds Keys, the only nice cop. He is, again, the Keys, the cop from E.T. He's the friendly cop here as well.
Ringwald.
Yeah. Ringwald is Keys. That was his character's name in E.T.
The Django.
Yeah, he's the friendly one. These kids, all of a sudden in Texas, they can create this underground railroad network where they're smuggling Billy and the gang around Texas with impunity. There's a kid who's been getting beaten by his father. The kids know it's been happening for years, but all of a sudden now they can rally up. The adults are powerless. I can't find. Where is Billie Jean? I'm confused. There's other kids with short hair. They're driving in a station wagon with fucking waves painted on the side. It's not too hard. These kids are overpowered, and these Texas kids, it's a bit much for me.
It's the same issue I had with Pump Up the Volume. I couldn't understand why exactly any of the kids gave a shit. That was the other part. Like, regardless of them being dumb, also, like, you're hanging out, it's summertime, the beach is there, and you're like, I care about Billie Jean for some fucking reason. And I want to say this with a degree of humility because I'm not a parent. You both are. So maybe I don't understand children, but my impression is that children are apathetic, like notoriously apathetic. I didn't understand how Billie Jean was leading them toward anything. I mean, Big D, you mentioned this Underground Railroad thing. Like, even indirectly, if she didn't want to be a leader, they're just shuffling her around from place to place, and she never hatches a viable plan during any of this. Like, I kept thinking that they were taking her somewhere to achieve something, but she just basically gets moved around until she ends up at Golfland.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that maybe you're just not around the right kids, because I actually don't think kids are apathetic at all. I think that adults often like code them as that, like they tell them that they're apathetic, or there's like this belief that like teenagers are apathetic in some way. But reality, like they actually care a lot when you let them, and they especially care a lot when they're empowered to do so. And I think there's a lot of, I mean, these are kind of dramatic examples, but there are a lot of, the reactions to school shootings and, what kids did, in relation to what happened there in Florida, or what has happened, nationwide with that. I think their reaction to transgender laws, like if you're on any social media and you watch these kids at school board meetings, like it's really, really moving to watch how they are, fighting back the banning of books here in the state of Texas. I mean, some of the most powerful things have been from school board meetings where kids themselves have like rallied and gone together and spoken and talked about how shitty it is what the government's doing to books and banning of like crit race theory and social and emotional learning and all of that. I think the issue is that often like teenagers get hyped up about the wrong thing. And I think that's what's happening here, is they're getting hyped up about the wrong thing, because this is definitely the wrong thing. But it's not that they're apathetic. It's just they're kind of dumb. Their frontal lobes aren't completely grown in yet.
But my question is, in 85, what is the cause? Pump Up the Volume. They're expelling students.
Yeah.
Who don't deserve to be expelled. Footloose. Hey, yeah. I want to dance. I want to have fun. I'm going to rail against that. What exactly is Billie Jean? What is her cause that all of these
$680
but people would be like, $680 for what? What exactly happened
for a
here?
scooter?
Honda Elite.
Yeah, you got the other, like the Yamaha dealership offered a replacement bike. You got Jimmy J. Judd's voice of the Texas Riviera. He's out there. But what are the kids rallying around?
I mean, this kind of goes back to my pseudo explanation for Pump Up the Volume. Is like, maybe they're just really bored. Like, there's nothing else going on in Texas. And they're like, this seems pretty cool.
The suburbs. That's the issue.
Yeah, it's the suburbs, man.
But what I do love is that what's true is that kids just say stupid shit. Like the one kid comes up to Billie Jean, he goes, my dad says you're going to end up dead. Whoa, thanks for supporting the cause, buddy.
I actually did like when they did like the little man on the street interviews with the kids. That was the best part. I just love when they take real. Somebody who cannot act and put them in a role where they don't have to. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, facing uncertain dangers, Billie Jean turns in her friends Putter and Ophelia for their safety. Mr. Pyatt issues a bounty for Billie Jean's apprehension, but Ringwald counters with a more peaceful offer and a promise to repair Binks' scooter. Billie Jean realizes the best plan is to surrender. She negotiates a rally on the beach, where Binks, armed with the toy gun, puts on a dress and pretends to be Billie Jean, walking behind Lloyd. Hubie notices the decoy, and the police shoot Binks.
All right, so I hate these darn kids argument that I think a lot of things in this time period did. When Pyatt is talking to the DA and he says, people are tired of these kids running wild. Like, I just rolled my eyes, because I really hope that me being a member of the millennial generation, that our generation breaks the cycle of feeling like kids are all like rascals and issues and like something to be stifled in some way. Because in reality, I think like a lot of kids are genuinely like curious and misunderstood and like really aching to find like their own identity in some way. And don't get me wrong here. I'm not doing like a 180. I think that Billie Jean and her friends are idiots, like abject idiots. But they're not most kids, because most kids like don't fake kidnapping. Most kids don't go on the run. Most kids don't make crazy anarchist wannabe videos. But the 80s kind of made you feel like that's what they all did. And I don't know if it's because we've done so many of these, but I just felt like really over it by this point.
No, I mean, the thing is, Gene, you said it. In the 80s, we were fucking bored. I did some stupid shit, dumb shit. We used to do just like, God, I don't even want to say half the shit we used to do, because when you're left to your own devices, plenty of time, nothing to do, adults that were not watching you, you might think it would be funny to go scoop up dog poop and put it in the mailbox. You might think it would be funny to go into the mall.
That is funny.
And shoot like those little rubber balls for like those guns through straws and just spray people in the mall. This shit would be funny. Dump a big bag of cheese doodles into the main post office box. You had nothing else to do. So yes, we were those darn kids on their bikes.
I would honestly watch that movie before I watched The Legend of Billie Jean again.
Mm-hmm.
And Ash, you're absolutely right that this movie makes out kids to be some sort of, as you said, rascals, some sort of nefarious mob. And their leadership in the film is absolutely ridiculous. And it's exemplified in this scene on the beach, right? Like, so her big negotiating tactic is like, let's have a rally on the beach. Every time I think Billie Jean is coming up with a plan, it's a terrible plan. And I'm not saying that Billie Jean and Binks had a death wish, but they seem to do everything in their power to create a situation where they would die. Yeah. Like you put crowds on the beach, so now the police are fucking nervous. Check. Stand out in the open. You got no cover. Check. Wear disguises and confuse people as to who's who. Check. Showing up with a fucking hostage whose dad happens to be the DA. And to top it all off, Bink shows up with that fucking toy gun. Like, the toy gun does nothing to help you in this scenario. There are situations where a toy gun might be handy. Somebody pulls a gun on you and you're unarmed and you're like, well, shit, maybe I can threaten them back. Or maybe you're trying to rob somebody. Maybe you're trying to rob somebody and you need something that appears like a weapon, whatever. But when there are police around, snipers around, what the fuck are you doing with the toy gun? How is that going to help?
It's not. Like, he's dumb. Like, absolutely dumb. And I rarely say this about characters, but like, I did not feel badly for him at all. He deserved to get shot. Like, what are you expecting in this scenario other than the fact that you're gonna get shot? It's the same thing like in Troy. I don't feel bad for Patroclus. Patroclus, you put on Achilles' armor. Like, you deserve to die. What did you expect? You were going to die that day. Binks, you're gonna get shot.
Yeah, but to their defense, they grew up in a trailer park. I don't think they went to a good school district. I don't think they're master tacticians. But I want to pile on here with you. What exactly was their beach plan? Let's say everything goes right. Everything is perfect. I'm still confused. What was the point? Billie Jean infiltrates the crowd. She's got a curly wig. Wow, I can't believe that's her. She gets up onto the trailer where the bike is. She uncovers the bike, which I'm surprised that the police weren't like, hey, you girl with curly hair, get off that main bargaining chip. Oh, wow, it's Billie Jean. So then she immediately starts waving her arms. So now people are looking at her. They know what was the point of the ruse to where, oh, wow, it's Binks in a dress. What could have happened?
Nothing.
I have no idea.
Nothing.
I have no idea. The only way this situation ends, even if Hubie's not involved, is that Sniper is going to shoot Binks. Like, that's the end.
The only way it ends.
That was the plan, maybe. I don't know.
Binks take a bullet.
But when the police sniper managed to hit Binks in the shoulder, I mean, he's no more than 100 yards, and he's scoped. I don't know how the hell he's that bad a shot. My immediate thought is, okay, this is the worst sniper on earth. Louisiana snipers better than Texas snipers. But it turns out, in my research, I discovered that most people shot by police snipers are not hit in vital organs. And I don't know how to interpret that information, because that I can't decide if that means that police snipers are all shit or they're just really nice and they're trying not to kill people. But it did lead me down a rabbit hole where I discovered, and Big D, you probably already know this, military snipers, when you see in the movies that they're shooting guys in the head, they're not trying to do that. They're generally going to aim center mass. And these guys are like guys and gals, are really, really far away. Like we're talking like a kilometer away when they're shooting somebody. Police snipers, generally speaking, they're going to be fairly close, and they're aiming for the medulla oblongata because they don't want the person with this hostage to be able to pull the trigger or stab the person. So they are apparently going for the brain, and this guy was just a terrible shot.
I can't believe you just brought up the medulla oblongata. We were talking about Bobby Boucher.
Hey,
I
it's
think
okay.
something's wrong with his medulla oblongata.
But I believe so. I believe you got shot him.
My mama say.
My mama said, but Gene, you're right. Because when you're talking about like military snipers, you have to remember.
Sorry, only on this show with the three of us. This is why this is the best lineup ever. Is because only within 5 minutes when I talk about the Iliad and Patroclus, and then we would start quoting Bobby Boucher. I'm just saying, you're welcome out there, ladies and gentlemen. This is gold.
But wait, we're not done yet.
Not done yet. So, Gene, you talked about the fact that they go for center mass. The major effect of a sniper, besides killing people, is the demoralizing factor. It is, they call him God for a reason. If you're standing there and your friend goes down screaming, it takes 2 or 3 guys to pick him up and pull him away. So you don't want to miss. You want to put him down. So it's right. But it made me think, we always talk about how would this movie hold up? And I was thinking, okay, let's play this movie out in our new remake today. How would this, they're in a crowd, they're at the beach, people are drinking. The sniper shoots him. He's right out there. He goes down, drops. Let's just say they believe it's Billie Jean. They're idle. People are going to riot. People are going to go crazy. Today, people might pull out. I walk around a lot of times when I'm out in large events. If I hear anything that resembles a round being shot or a ricochet, I am keenly aware of that. I mean, this going down in 2024, even if it was a car backfiring, that whole shit would have turned into the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl celebration.
There it is.
There it is.
I knew this was going somewhere.
Too soon.
Iliad. Kansas City
Bobby
Chiefs.
Boucher.
Bobby Boucher.
And Travis Kelce.
All right. We're in the home
6
stretch.
degrees of Taylor Swift.
Unable to catch Binks's ambulance, Billie Jean sees Mr. Pyatt's booth selling Billie Jean merchandise. She confronts Pyatt and reveals that he's a pig. He gives Billie Jean the money, but she rams her knee into his crotch, knocking over a nearby torch. As the overturned torch begins to set Mr. Pyatt's booth on fire, onlookers, including Hubie, burn all the Billie Jean merchandise and leave in disgust. Later, Billie Jean and Binks in an arm sling are seen hitchhiking in Vermont.
So I did not see this movie in the theaters, but I can imagine how it goes down. The end of this, the flames are rising high, and kids in the theater are like, yeah, we can do it. Pat Benatar is blaring.
We are strong.
We're invincible. Yeah, don't piss us off. And it's proof that this is written for teenagers, because this has a complete and utter disregard for how the law works and the consequences of committing crimes. We've seen many times on Shat where teenagers, they somehow... They trick the bad guy into admitting the truth, whether it's on TV or out in front of people. Everybody cheers. Yeah, the kids walk away. That's not how this shit happens. Her entire gang is going to jail. They forget about the early crimes, which is we have felony assault, shoplifting, theft of a handgun, possession of a firearm without a proper license, grand theft auto, resisting arrest. Let's skip the fact that Billie Jean assaults the Pyatts. There's 3 ball kicks. That's assault. They do it in front of the police. Then through her actions at the end, she has a major charge of like felony arson. She kicks him. He goes down. Gene, the police are all there. She caused the fire by assaulting him. The light falls. Everything goes up. In this movie, kids win. Yay! In the real world, Pyatt now has a major class action lawsuit. We assume he's got insurance. He will, in the end, make more money from an insurance payday than he would have ever before. Billie's going to jail. Her newfound notoriety in the end, she'll have some money. He will sue her. Billie's going to be poor. He's going to do well. In the end, Pyatt wins.
Yeah, it might be the Russian literature fan in me, but I kept waiting for the scene where they kill Billie Jean. Or at the least arrest her. Like I thought this movie was going that direction. When I saw that Binks wasn't going to die, I'm like, okay, fucking Billie Jean, she's dead. She's the martyr. She is the Joan of Arc, right? She is the subject, let's not forget, of a statewide manhunt. She has kidnapped the DA's son. You have heavy police resources, and she's right there. Everyone knows she's there. There's no disguise. There's no escape route. She's in the middle of this group. She's out in the open assaulting the alleged victim of a crime that she's accused of committing. Even if it's just to sort things out, like, why is she not in custody?
Right. And why aren't the other people too? Like, why isn't the kid being arrested for faking being kidnapped and making a fake ransom video? Like, instead, the adults stand around and let him dramatically pick up a sign and break it in half and throw it into a very dangerous and like rapidly spreading bonfire.
Jesus. And kids, if you're going to shoot a hostage video, don't do it at a port of call where you can see ships in the background with their names painted on the ship. How long would it have taken the police to identify where they're filming that? These kids are idiots. And in the end, maybe the police just walked away because they're like, we do not want to do the paperwork. Or, piets down. There's a fire here. Get the firemen, get the fire department in here. Let's just fucking wipe our hands. Let's go home.
Or maybe like also learn how to tie a knot, because like they literally just drape the rope over him. Like you could see it hanging in the back. Like he's not tied to that pole, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
Gene Google's port of call. I thought it was just a cocktail bar
in New Orleans.
Yeah, not Florida.
Great burgers.
Really?
You've never been to port of call?
I've never eaten the burgers. I just
they're
drank the
quite
drink.
good. Yeah, no.
I still refuse to go to Napoleon House without you. So just saying.
Oh, one day. Well, call me old, but what the fuck are they going to do in Vermont? What are they going to do there? It's cold. They aren't used to that. It's expensive. And these motherfuckers are poor. And not just that, but they're minors. Who's going to register them for school? How are they going to get an apartment? How are they going to get an ATM card? Like, it makes zero sense. Like, how is this their ending? What is their plan? It solidifies everything from the earlier part of this movie that these are just dumb fucking kids.
Much like the question of what happened to Navarro in True Detective Season 4, Night Country, I think we're misinterpreting the Vermont thing. Is it possible, just hear me out, Billie Jean and Binks still on the run?
No.
Like maybe they did actually get arrested. They were released on bail. They finally were smart enough to go, hey, let's get the fuck out of town. Although it does seem that Mexico, being literally on the same Gulf and just a few hours down the road, would be the safer choice for a pair of young desperados.
No, but I mean, I can't believe we've become that podcast where we're like, oh, how are they going to register for school? How are they going to open a bank account without a license or proper birth certificate? We've become that podcast.
They just left their mom alone. They don't care about their own mother.
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the logistics. How'd they get the gas money?
Okay.
How'd they get the gas money to get there?
Well, we see they probably hitchhiked. Maybe they set up, maybe the Texas, Underground Railroad extends north. It goes interstate. So they're going up there. And this isn't Walter White hiding in like an empty gas truck going to his New Hampshire cabin. They've relocated. Binks is up there and he walks out of like the gas station. He goes, I can't believe it's this cold. What, you just realized it? You didn't fly in and get off a plane, Binks. You've been driving through the snow for hours. But then he spots Gene out of the corner of his eye, that sweet snow machine.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, same color red. And all of a sudden, he's all about it. I got the feeling they were setting up a sequel. Billy takes on, maybe she's at like the local ski resort. They get a job, right? They're out there. Somebody wrecks his snow machine. And then Billy goes in to get the money. She gets accosted in the ski shop. And they become snow bandits.
You're a pretty girl. We're so glad to have you in this Vermont area.
Come here and check out them snowballs.
My snowballs.
All right. And now's the time in the podcast where we give our Shat score for The Legend of Billie Jean. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when you're rich and food doesn't taste like what it is. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster movie. It's when you're so nervous you have to pee. I'll go first. Ash, I'm sorry to say this, but with all its faults, this movie is a better version of Pump Up the Volume. That does not mean it is good. I like that Billie Jean was a female lead who did things her way and was only sexualized by others around her, not the filmmakers themselves. She didn't want a violent revolution or to be an outlaw, which is what we typically see in films like this. She didn't want to escape from her hometown. She just wanted her sense of justice. It's a unique movie, like I said. It's different in ways. But is it good? No. I'm giving it 3 3/4 wipes.
I think that this movie is very slow. I think it's very meaningless in a lot of ways. And I think what it feels like to me is that like the AI bots that have, come into existence, it's like they took all of the movies from the 80s and was all fed in there. And then you said to them in a prompt, create a film that's indicative of all of this type of genre from the 1980s. And it produced this because it's very lacking in substance. It's not offensive at all. She's fine. I think that the idea of a female lead who, quote unquote, as you said, does things her way, that's a great idea. Let's have that female lead, but let's have that female lead like make sense. Let's have that female lead like actually be an empowered, smart person who, is fighting a decent cause and, taking up arms, metaphorically, of course, for her women folk. Like, let's have that. I'm there for that. But she's not that. And I don't think it's anti-feminist or anti-woman to point out that she's just kind of a lame character. And I wouldn't have followed her, great haircut or not. I don't think she's that interesting. And the haircut can't save it for me. So it's 4 wipes.
So I don't know. I mean, I may be tainted in that as we've been recording this, I've had the poster on the right hand, like corner of my screen, and she's staring at me with those eyes. Mm-hmm. She's looking at me, and Helen Slater, very attractive. I feel compelled to give this a higher score than you. I think this is a 3 wipe movie. Surprisingly,
she's a pretty girl.
She is a pretty girl, and unlike I think the other teenage underdog stories we've done, this one, as ridiculous, I'll admit it's ridiculous with the adult. It felt a little heavier to me. This wasn't the teenagers wanting to dance or I want to listen to my pirate radio or cut class. This felt like a battle for freedom, a battle for what's right, a battle for fair is fair and not being raped or beaten. I honestly believe, we can talk about this, that Pyatt would have raped her and Pyatt would have raped more. There was something to this that felt a little darker to me. And in the end, I would have followed Billie Jean. I would have had a poster. I would have bought a hat, some kind of like a pennant. I would have bought all the merchandise of Frisbee.
It's not fucking medieval times. Like you don't need a pennant
see that
for
shop?
this.
Pyatt had everything. Koozies. It was quite a setup. This is a 3 wipe movie for me.
Blech.
All right, with 3 wipes from Big D, 3 3/4 wipes from me, and 4 wipes from Ash, that gives us an average wipe score of 3.583 repeating wipes for The Legend of Billie Jean.
So, Gene, that now ties this in the 264 spot with only one other film, Masters of the Universe. Slightly better than Twister, Porky's, and Jingle All the Way. Slightly worse than Valley Girl, Repo Men, and Iron Eagle.
That is a travesty.
Why?
An absolute travesty.
In which way?
Jingle All the Way is fantastic.
I agree. Jingle All the Way is.
I think
is
Twister's fantastic.
No,
I'm excited for Twisters.
Tori Amos on the soundtrack is the only good thing about Twister. I'm Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Don't even get me the fact that they're redoing Twister and
they're not redoing it. It's a sequel.
Oh, it's a sequel. What about Roadhouse?
Oh, I'm excited about that.
I am too. I love Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal is good, but you don't need to have in there, what's his name? Conor McGregor. That's going to be a bit. I want to punch him in the face.
Okay.
Let's see how that works out for you.
It would not work out very well. It more likely, I would be like, hello, Conor. I need to leave.
I mean, your jiu-jitsu is pretty good.
No, he'd hurt me.
All right. Well, BreAnn, I hope you understand the score and we gave solid reasoning for it. We love you as always, and I'm genuinely sorry that we did not see eye to eye on this film. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, when an investigative reporter travels to Los Angeles to write an accurate piece about a fitness craze that took hold of the metropolis during the 1980s, he meets an attractive fitness instructor and the two fall in love. Suddenly, the reporter wonders if he can still write the article and be in love at the same time. Commissioned by our wonderful, prolific commissioner, Scott H. This came out in 85, and Gene is aglow. Gene is, reporters, beautiful people. This is Gene's type of story.
Scott, I got 2 things to say about this upcoming movie. One is I'm sorry for any disparaging comments we made about Texas. We love you very much. And someday I will come visit you in Houston. And 2, thank you so much for bringing this movie into my life. I cannot express what a difference it's made. And I cannot wait to talk about it next week. Thanks so much.
Gene, I remember a lot of short shorts on the men and a lot of gyration and a lot of swinging. It reminded me of our training session.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of like bells ringing?
Yeah, balls. It's a lot. Yeah, a lot of balls. There's gangbangs. There's
high
balls,
socks.
Lots of high socks. Yeah,
leotards.
It's brilliant. But beyond, like, listen, talking about where our conversation went today from, the Iliad to Bobby Boucher, there are lines in this movie next week, ladies and gentlemen, that are profound, that are written at such a high level that my jaw dropped several times, because I'm telling you, it might be the best dialogue that Travolta's ever delivered.
Well, that's a bold statement.
Yeah, if you've seen Battlefield Earth, you know what I'm talking about. Like, this man's had a storied career, and this might be the best character he's ever played. Well, thanks, Scott, for your upcoming commission. Thank you, BreAnn, for commissioning The Legend of Billie Jean. And thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. Email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all the information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, Watchmen, and True Detective, but not this season. You can find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts to be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Ash and Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
I'm glad I met you. I'm sorry I met you.
I'm glad that you're glad you met me. But I'm sorry that you're sorry you met me.
John Travolta.
I would gladly take one of your aerobic classes if you let me interview you.
I was really beginning to like you, too.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
How many times a year do you fall in love, Adam?
Depends on the subject.
Perfect. He's a reporter for Rolling Stone, working on 2 different stories.
I don't think you understand. I might want you to be the focus of my story.
She's one of them.
I don't think you understand. I don't want to be the focus of anything.
Perfect.
The only problem is she doesn't want to cooperate, but she will. I just need a viewpoint from someone who works here, someone like you.
Are you deaf? No!
I got a plane to catch, another story to write.
The government could put pressure on you, too. They could send you to jail.
Well, that's a risk I'll have to take, isn't it?
I read that shit you wrote about me.
Good reporter would never get in bed with the subject.
You keep forgetting something. I'm not your subject.
Do you think that people that are in better shape have better sex?
That's what I want to be, the most perfect me possible.
Because if you perfect yourself, you'll be loved. Is that what you're saying?
I read your little story. You lied to me.
Has he gone nuts?
What is so wrong with wanting to be perfect?
John Travolta.
You are so hot.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
I like being the best.
In a James Bridges film, Perfect.
Film that is very much about a woman. Or girl, I guess. 2 dudes about girl, woman. Is she 18?
Yeah, any of that works.
Okay, so 2 dudes talking about girl, and sorry, where was I going with that? Oh yeah,
wow, he's struggling here.
Well, I'm trying. Well, it's yeah. So 2 dudes.
He's nervous.
He knows he's backing himself into a corner.